So with this, brief comments, I would request Muhtaram Brother Abdul Rahman Aslam Boli Sahib to recite portion from the Holy Quran. Other brothers, I will request, please mute your, videos, sounds, so that we don't see any echo. Those brothers who are presenting, when you are presenting, then you can unmute. Jazakallah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, brother. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. إذا جاء نصر الله والفتح ورأيت الناس يدخلون في دين الله أفواجا فسبح بحمد ربك واستغفره إنه كان توابا. صدق الله العظيم.
Jazakallah, Brother Abdul Rahman. Now, I request Brother Shane Jeevan to do the English translation of these verses.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. I will now present the English translation of chapter 110 of the Holy Quran, translated by Hazrat Maulvi Sher Ali Sahib Raziyallahu Anhu. I seek refuge with Allah from Satan the accursed. In the name of Allah, the gracious, the merciful. When the help of Allah comes and the victory, and thou seest men entering the religion of Allah in troops, glorify thy Lord with his praise and seek forgiveness of him. Surely he is oft returning with compassion. Jazakallah.
Jazakallah, Brother Jeevan. Now I request Brother Masroor Dao to do the French translation of these verses.
Assalamu alaikum. Au nom d'Allah, le gracieux, le miséricordieux, lorsque vient l'aide d'Allah ainsi que la victoire, et que tu vois les hommes entrer en troupe dans la religion d'Allah, alors glorifie ton Seigneur avec sa louange et implore son pardon. Assurément, il revient sans cesse avec compassion.
Jazakallah. Now we will be having Arabic Qasida by Yasin Dalal Sahib. Is Brother Yasin joined or?
Yes, I'm joined. Hi.
Okay.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Yeah.
So now you can do the Arabic Qasida, please.
Yes, okay. يا عين فيض الله والعرفان يسعى إليك الخلق كالظمآن يا بحر فضل المنعم المنان تهوي إليك الذمر بالكيزان يا شمس ملك الحسن والإحسان نورت وجه البر والعمران يا من غدا في نوره وضيائه كالنيرين ونور الملوان يا بدرنا يا آية الرحمن أهدى الهداة وأشجع الشجعان يا رب صل على نبيك دائما في هذه الدنيا وبعث ثاني. جزاكم الله.
Jazakallah, brother. Now I request Brother Simran Ahmad to do the English translation of these Arabic Qasida which we recited.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Oh, who you are, the fountain of Allah's munificence. and perfect understanding of Allah. People rush towards you thirstily. O who you are, the ocean of God's grace, who is the bestower of favors, exceedingly beneficent. Hordes of thirsty people hurry towards you, holding their palms in their hand. You are the sun of the spiritual kingdom of beauty and grace. He illuminated the inhabitants of the desert as well as the cities. O you whose divine light and luminescence are him light, the twin luminaries, the sun and moon, lighting up day as well as night. O our full moon, O sign of the gracious God, you who are the greatest spiritual guide, the bravest among the brave. O my Lord, shower your eternal blessings on your Prophet in this life as well as in the next life.
Jazakallah. Now we will be having the French translation, and Brother Lawal Sumonu will do that from Montreal. Walaikum Assalam wa rahmatullah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay. Maintenant, je vous présente la traduction en français du Qasida qu'on vient de réciter. Ô toi qui es la fontaine de la munificence d'Allah et la compréhension parfaite d'Allah. Les gens assoiffés accourent vers toi. Ô toi qui es l'océan de la grâce de Dieu, qui, dans son infinie bienfaisance, accorde ses faveurs, les foules accourent vers toi, tenant une coupe entre leurs mains. Ô toi qui es le soleil du royaume spirituel, de la beauté et de la grâce, tu as éclairé les habitants des déserts et des villes. Ô toi dont la lumière divine et la luminescence dont l'ont rendu tels les luminaires jumeaux, le soleil et la lune, éclairant le jour comme la nuit. Ô notre pleine lune, ô signe de Dieu gracieux, tu es le plus grand des guides, le plus brave des braves. Ô Seigneur, fais pleuvoir sur ton prophète tes bénédictions éternelles dans cette vie comme dans la prochaine.
Jazakallah. Now I will be doing the opening remarks. Let me open my slides. Yeah. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. My dear brothers, so we are having our annual Ijtima of Naumobain. So I would like to present few slides. The first, thing I would say to my brothers who have entered into Ahmadiyyat Islam, that try to integrate into the Jamaat. So when you go into the Jamaat activities, like they are doing, some Jamaats are doing monthly or weekly classes, they have their meetings. So try to join those meetings. When you go into those meetings, then you will be able to see your other brothers and try to make friendship with them and be comfortable in talking to them. So in case you find any difficulty, do talk to the local president or the local Murabbi or missionary and try to be more open with them in case you need anything or in case you want to give any idea. The other point I would like is that there are three key aspects when new people enter into the Jamaat. The first thing is that we should understand the organization of the Jamaat, because many times we do not understand what is the organization. That our Jamaat is, led by our Khalifa, who is our worldwide head or leader. And then each country has got the national Amir, which in our country is Malik Lal Khan Sahib, who will be addressing us around 4 o'clock, a little after 4. And then each Jamaat or Halka where you live, like for example, brothers live in Montreal or Quebec or Calgary or Vancouver, Brampton or Mississauga, they all Jamaats have got a leader, then a head, which is either called a local Amir or a president. So then we go further down to Lajna, to the younger population and the older population. So we should understand the organizational structure of the Jamaat. And we should also understand that why there are, like, for example, youths have got their own organization, the elders have got their own organizations, the female or ladies population have got, what is the difference between these, and how they work. So once you enter into the Jamaat, this should also be, it doesn't take that much long, but once you understand, then because every person who has, entered into the Jamaat, they have a family, they have wife, they have kids. So then you understand, if my kids are there, then where should they go? Then the other point is, after you understand the organizational structure, parallel to that, which is also very important, that we have 5 pillars of Islam. So we have to understand those. First of all, we should know them. Then we should know the objectives of those pillars, why they are, like, for example, we all say Kalma when we enter, we all say 5 times prayers. And we should be able to, say our prayers, because in the prayers you have to understand and learn the some verses of the Holy Quran. So in case you find any difficulty in understanding and then those verses or memorizing those verses, get a help from your other brothers who are in the Jamaat or the local missionary or the local president. If you need any help, do talk to them, be open with them. And then in the coming month, like not even a month now, maybe a couple of weeks after, we will be having another very important pillar, of which is fasting. So we should be, fasting during those 30 days. And then we should be able to, understand the real meaning of fasting, and then accelerate our worship during fasting. Last 10 days of fasting, some people do the itikaf day, that they exclude themselves from the all worldly activities, then they just focus on the prayers and submission to God. So many people do go to the mosque to spend 10 days there in the mosque. I know a brother from Montreal, Lawal, who used to come in Mississauga, I think a couple of times. Very, very loving brother, very, very passionate about his prayers. So, but this year and also the last year, we were unable to host the people who come for itikaf. So it could be still be done. If you want to do, you can do at your home as well. So it is not forbidden. So itikaf can be done at home as well. Then the other aspect of, which we should all learn is the tarbiyah, that we understand that how we learn the good behavior. So it's very important. Everyone needs that, improvement in our day-to-day life activities and day-to-day our behavior, that how should we be talking to the people who are leading the Jamaat, how should we be talking to our brothers and sisters in the Jamaat, or even outside the Jamaat, how we should be talking to our families, how should our relationship be with our wives, with our children, with our neighbors, with our brothers, with our sisters, that I have accepted Ahmadiyyat, my sisters are not Ahmadi, my mother is not Ahmadi. So how should we be dealing with them? So this is very important, that we have to be very polite. We, if you read the history of Islam, that Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace be and blessing of Allah be upon him, that when he accepted and he started Islam, he was the only one who accepted, and all his family, uncles and uncles and other friends and cousins, they were not Muslims. And in fact, they became very, very against him. But his behavior was different. He was always loving. So we have to understand all those parameters of tarbiyat. Then I would say that understand and educate yourself about the importance of prayer. When we say that we have to say 5 times prayers, then we should also be, able to understand why we do 5 times prayers. Then we recite portion of the Holy Quran and some other prayers during the, each section of our prayer. We do stand, we do ruku, we do sajda. So we have to understand all those movements we do in the prayers. Each movement has got a meaning. So talk to your missionary sahib, they will understand, they will give you the brief introduction of that. When we go to sajda, why do we go for sajda? Why we go for ruku? Why we stand up? So why we loosen our hand when we stand up after the ruku? So all those things, each has got certain meanings and each has got certain. So we should all be able to understand that what are the basic elements when we say our prayers. Then within Jamaat, we have financial sacrifices system. Again, there are many ways of participating in financial sacrifices. So also learn into that when you are joining. It is difficult in the beginning because you are not trained in that. You have not even learned about that. But do contribute whatever you can. But try to learn what are the different ways of financial sacrifices. Why those sacrifices are there? Why people are asking for your contribution in the Jamaat? Where that money goes? So all these things you should be able to explain others and understand and talk to your families that, why I do these financial sacrifices. The Jamaat as an organization always asks for that because we want our brothers and sisters that they get blessing of Almighty God. And we know that how important and how blessed it is to be part of this, financial system. Then I would say, engage yourself in tabligh activities, means preaching activities. So how you can do that? It will be slightly easier for you because you are the only one many times who have accepted Ahmadiyya. But other family members like your brothers, your sisters, your father, your mother, your cousins, they may not be Ahmadis. So it will be easier for you to convince them and to show them. So if you show them that, how as an Ahmadi I am living now, and when I was not Ahmadi, how I was living then. So if your behavior, your character, yourself reflects change in your life, and they see that positive change, then they will get convinced. So first of all, with your behavior, you have to change yourself and show that you have gone to the better side of your life. And then you talk to them how better it is for them as well. So it's one of the tradition, as I mentioned earlier, that if you understand the basic, pillars of Islam. So one of the, pillar is Hajj. And during Hajj, we do a slaughtering of an animal. So, and any person who has money, they do, even if they don't do Hajj, they do the sacrifices just to be part of that, that pillar. Now, so my desire is to do sacrifice, for example, every year. If I convert one brother towards Islam, towards Ahmadiyyat, then one of the tradition is that will be equivalent to about 100 camels sacrifice. So now you can see the reward you can get if you convert one person towards Islam. So we have to understand that type of philosophy and the blessing. So once we get, and we don't pay anything, like for example, if I have to do like 100 camels, I may have to sell my house. So, but by converting someone, I don't have to do anything except using my knowledge, using my wisdom, using my energy, using my time. So we should understand that it is a very blessed way that we do participate in tabligh or preaching activities, because there's a lot of blessing in there. Then I would say attend meetings and get connected with members, which I mentioned earlier. Then we have a Muslim television, Ahmadiyya, which runs 24 hours now. So you can also watch those programs, ask your families to watch those programs and get connected with Hazur by listening to his Friday sermons. And also very important thing is that keep writing letters to Hazur. So this way you will get, Huzur reads each and every letter and he replies. So once you write a letter to Huzur, sometimes people feel like if thousands and thousands of letters are going to Huzur, how is it manly possible that he's reading all those letters? You will be surprised that if you keep on writing to Huzur, and inshallah Huzur will come to Canada, if you get a chance to meet him, if you will tell that my name is so and so from Montreal or from Ottawa or from Calgary or from Toronto, Huzur will say, oh, you are the one who are writing me the names of letters for prayer. So this shows that he remembers all the. There are tons of such examples that Huzur recalls the people when they meet him. That, oh yeah, I remember that you wrote me this letter. How is your family doing now? So get connected with the blessed person, and it's only one person who is the leader in this at this time of Islam, and it's our Khalifa. So get connected with him. Then I would say, so did I miss anything in that? No. Then I would say, speak to local missionary sahib or the person who has introduced you in the Jamaat, if they have enough knowledge. If not, then you can talk to your local missionary or local president, get connected, someone who can teach you, who can help you to understand, many books and writings of the promised Messiah and the Khalifa of the time. Then also when you come to Toronto, or if you are already living in Toronto, try to meet with the National Amir, try to meet with the missionary in charge, try to see the setup by yourself, that how your Jamaat is progressing, how our community is progressing, and how beautiful it is to be part of this, multinational, I would say, community, where you have people from all part of the world. So this is, my brief. I took a little more time because I was seeing that we have enough time. In fact, we are 10 minutes ahead of our schedule. So if any brother has got any question or any comment, Dawsab, can we do that, or should we do that towards the end?
No, we don't really have that option right now.
Okay.
So I guess we can proceed to the next program then.
Okay. So now the next program is that we will be having Muhtaram Sadr Sahib Khudamul Ahmadiyya. He will be presenting us the guidance from Huzur Rajatullah bin Nasr al-Aziz. Sadr Sahib is with us.
Assalamu alaikum, Rahmatullah, respected Secretary Sahib. Due to some schedule conflict, respected Sadr Sahib could not join, but Khaksar will join in Sadr Sahib's behalf today.
Jazakallah, Jazakallah. So you are ready for presenting?
Ji Secretary Sahib. I don't have a slides presentation, but I would like to share a message on behalf of Sadr Sahib.
Okay. Okay.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. First and foremost, I just want to say how inspired I am, and how heartwarming this is for me to see all of our No-Mobile brothers joined here today by the grace of Allah. I was just reading a little while ago something, a summary of a Friday sermon from Huzur Anwar, the Khalifa, in which Huzur was narrating incidents from all over the world of new Ahmadis who have accepted Islam Ahmadiyyat and the change that has occurred within them as a result of accepting this divine movement. And literally, Huzur was reading letters of missionaries from Benin and Sierra Leone and Kyrgyzstan and all over the world, east and west and north and south, incidents of, this person accepted Islam Ahmadiyyat. Before this, he had this, challenge in his life, or he had this moral vices. After accepting the promised Messiah and Islam Ahmadiyyat, this change occurred within him. This internal revolution, a spiritual and moral uplift that transformed his life. And for me, that's something that I think it's not just in the storybooks. It's not just, we see this sometimes narrated by a missionary or by Huzur or here and there. In my personal experience, we have these people walking amongst us every single day. And that for me is also a sign of the truth of Islam Ahmadiyyat. That if there are people who are alive and who you see in front of you, you know, the change that has come about in them, the revolution within them after accepting a message, then there's something right and true about that message. You know, we have I don't want to put any members on the spot, but you know, I have another aspect of my brief remarks here. But just on this call, you know, we have members who, you know, were not born Ahmadis. You have, for example, Adam Alexander Sahib. By the grace of Allah, we all know him, a well-known brother. Now he was not an Ahmadi up to just, I think, 13 or 12 years ago, and now he's a missionary of the Jamaat Ahmadiyya. By the grace of Allah, he is one who is a role model for others, and such a spiritual, you know, transformation and growth has occurred in him, and we see so many examples of that. We have Rabbi, just in Canada alone, Rabbi Ishaq Fonseca Sahib in Montreal. You know, we have our respected Sadr Sahib, the leader of our youth community, of our youth organization. He himself is not a born Ahmadi. You know, he accepted Ahmadiyyat. And look at, now he is the one who is responsible for teaching the youth of Jamaat and getting them on the right moral path. Similarly, we have, I can see in front of me, James Sinclair Sahib, and so many others. So even if you look at our national Amir Sahib, respected Amir Sahib, who is the national in charge of Jamaat Ahmadi in Canada, he was not a born Ahmadi. He accepted Ahmadiyyat. And so a tremendous change was brought about within him. And this is, as I mentioned, this is the hallmark of Jamaat Ahmadiyya, of any true and divine movement, is that it brings a change within a person. One of the things that I wanted to touch on today was that by the grace of Allah, Jamaat Ahmadiyya is a global movement, and people are accepting and entering into its fold from literally every country of the world. I can tell you that. In Africa alone, there are more than a dozen nations, maybe 15 to 20 nations: Benin, Sierra Leone, Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana, Nigeria, Niger, so on and so forth. So many, in which every year hundreds of thousands of people are accepting. In the Middle East, acceptance is growing with every coming month and year. Even in European countries, in North America. So you have this divine movement, which is global in nature, and people from every walk of life are coming into it. What is the bond? That is the question. What is the thing which is connecting these people, bringing them on one spiritual page, and then keeping them guided continuously? Because life is long. You know, we have a change, we accept something as true, but what's the next step after that? There's a lot of life that comes after that. Many ups and downs, many turns in the way. And my dear brothers, that is what I want to talk about today. The thing that brings us on one page and also keeps us guided throughout our lives as we go through the ups and downs is the Khalifat al-Masih, the system of Khilafat. So this is something that I think is a top priority for every single one of our new Ahmadi brothers, is to sort of wrap our heads around this system of Khilafat and the Khalifat al-Masih. You know, if you ever watch, everyone knows about Huzur, and even all of our new Ahmadi brothers, we know about Huzur. And if you ever watch some of the tours of Huzur, he's literally going to every country of the world, and the top, you know, cream of those countries, the intelligentsia, the leaders, the political thinkers, all those people they come in front of Huzur and seek guidance from him. They show him so much respect. You know, whether it's Capitol Hill, whether it's the German Parliament, the EU Parliament, Canada. You know, when Huzur came to Canada, he was sitting beside the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister had the honor of sitting beside the Khalifat al-Masih. So the whole world looks to Huzur for guidance, and they listen to him. They admire him and respect him, of a man of infinite wisdom and piety. So we who are the members of Jamaat Ahmadiyya, who are his followers, we should not waste or underutilize this immense blessing given to us. He is a person that they don't even accept Ahmadiyyat as true. They don't even know the truth of Islam or Ahmadiyyat. But just looking at him, they see that this is a man of God, this is a man of wisdom who should be listened to. So we who have accepted Islam Ahmadiyyat, who have accepted the Holy Prophet ﷺ, the promised Messiah al-Islam, we should be the foremost in developing a relationship with the Khalifat al-Masih. Respected Secretary Sahib already has mentioned what establishing a relationship means. It means obviously writing letters to Huzur. But why? What does that mean, writing letters? Do we just randomly start writing letters? It means open up your life to the Khalifat al-Masih. It's not ordinary worldly leadership. So, you know, Prime Minister, can you write your troubles to a Prime Minister? Maybe his secretary gets it, maybe not. You, my brothers, you have the open slate. You are facing a challenge in your life today. You write it to Huzur. Write a letter, you send it to Huzur, you will see what happens. You will get a response from Khalifat al-Masih from his own hand, and you will see how the wisdom and prayers that start accompanying you as a result of you writing to Huzur. Okay? This is how you begin a relationship. You open your heart to the Khalifat al-Masih. You start sharing your problems and troubles, make them his troubles, and then you will see how a bond builds between you. The next aspect of establishing a relationship is following the guidance of Huzur. And I don't want to go into too much detail about what those guidances are. I think that's something that is up to each and every member to stay attached to Huzur, to stay attached to Khilafat, to watch the Friday sermons, and also to reach out to our missionaries and our office bearers who will let you know the advice that Huzur has given to new Ahmadis. And that, my dear brothers, is something that I think each and every one of us, all of us who are the new Ahmadis, we should specially take time and reach out to our missionaries or whoever is the person who has introduced us to Islam Ahmadiyya, and ask them that what guidance has Huzur given to new Ahmadis. When the whole world is listening to Huzur, we should be the foremost. And I believe, inshallah, when we get that guidance from Huzur, when we see what he is telling us, because all new Ahmadis come from different walks of life, they're on a different stage of their journey, but the guidance from Huzur, it will be something that will tremendously benefit each and every one of us. And I believe, inshallah, that can create a source of strength within us, bond us to Khilafat, and that in the long run will be something that will always keep us attached to Jamaat, attached to a moral and spiritual path, and will, inshallah, light up the future of each and every single one of our lives. So Jazakumullah, my dear brothers, that's all that I wanted to share today. And I turn it back over to respected Secretary Sahib.
Jazakallah, thank you very much, brother. Now we will be having a video presentation on conditions of Bai'at. So Daud Sahib, can you please show that video?
The 23rd of March, 1889. 40 devout followers have gathered around the man who has been commissioned by Allah to be the promised Messiah and Mahdi of the time. They have covered great distances and waited many years to be part of this historic moment. Individually, they put their hands forward to grasp his hand. The Bai'at starts, and they all repeat after him.
Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu.
More than 100 years later, this community that started with only 40 humble servants of God has spread to all corners of the earth. And now, it is not just 40, but millions of hands that are stretched out to accept the pledge of allegiance to the promised Messiah and his Khalifa of the time.
ये बैत नहीं है।
Bai'at is an Arabic word and literally means to sell. The promised Messiah ﷺ states, Bai'at truly means to sell oneself. Its blessing and impact are based on that condition. Just as a seed is sown into the ground, its original condition is that the hand of the farmer has sown it, but it is not known what will happen to it. If the seed is of a good quality and possesses the capacity to grow, then with the grace of Allah the Almighty, and as a consequence of the work done by the farmer, it grows until one grain turns into 1,000 grains. Similarly, the person taking bath has to first adopt lowliness and humility, and has to distance himself from his ego and selfishness. Then that person becomes fit for growth. But he who continues to hold on to his ego, along with taking the bath, will never receive any grace. He further states, to take bath means handing over your life to Almighty Allah. It means, today we have sold our life to Almighty Allah. The system of bath has been established solely to gather together a group of the righteous people in a Jamaat, so that a weighty group of the righteous people should make a holy impact on the world. The unity of these righteous people should be a source of blessings, grandeur, and positive results for Islam. The blessings of being united on one creed may enable them to perform noble and righteous services for the sake of Islam. They should become a refuge for the poor and fathers for the orphans. In the service of Islam, they should be willing to sacrifice themselves like one overpowered with love. In March 1903, on the day of Eid, some companions were sitting together and the promised Messiah ﷺ said, "Listen, all of you who have taken bath today, and those who have taken bath before. I would like to say a few words by way of advice. Listen to them carefully. Bath that you have taken today is bath of repentance. Repentance is of two types. One from the previous sins, that is, to reform oneself from the mistakes committed before and to make recompense as far as possible to set right the damage done by them. The second is to safeguard oneself from sins thereafter and to save oneself from the fire." The first international bath took place in 1993. The bath is performed in the following manner. Hazur stretches out his right hand. Those people who have been given the chance to sit immediately close to him put their hands on his sacred hand, while others put their hands on the shoulders of these persons to make a continuous link with Huzur. Everyone puts his hand on the back of the person in front of them. Thereby the entire gathering is connected with each other, leading up to Huzur. This is not merely a physical connection, but also symbolizes the spiritual bond every Ahmadi has with the Khalifa of the time. Huzur recites a portion of the words of bath in English. He then pauses so the portion is translated into various languages. When the whole text of the bath is completed, Huzur recites the Astaghfar.
Astaghfirullah Rabbi min kulli dhanbin wa atubu ilayh. Astaghfirullah Rabbi min kulli dhanbin wa atubu ilayh. Astaghfirullah Rabbi min kulli dhanbin wa atubu ilayh.
देखो खुदा ने एक.
As Huzur prostrates in gratification, every Ahmadi, wherever he or she may be, follows his beloved Imam and thanks Allah for his immense blessings. Due to the large number of people that are now attending the Jalsa Salana by the grace of Allah, we see that sometimes this chain of people reaches up to the gates and into the parking lot. During these few minutes, everything in the entire Jalsa grounds and in front of the TV screens around the world stops immediately as soon as Huzur enters the Jalsagah. The bath starts and everyone repeats after him.
देखो खुदा ने एक जहां को.
Number 1, that till the last day of his or her life, he or she shall abstain from shirk. Number 2, that he or she shall keep away from falsehood, cruelty, adultery, dishonesty, disorder, rebellion, and every kind of evil. Number 3, that he or she shall offer prayers 5 times daily. Number 4, that he or she shall not inflict injury on any of Allah's creatures. Number 5, that he or she would bear every hardship for the sake of Allah. Number 6, that he or she shall not follow vulgar customs and guard against evil inclinations. Number 7, that he or she shall discard pride and haughtiness and live in humility and meekness. Number 8, that he or she shall hold his or her faith, dignity, and the welfare of Islam dearer than his or her own life, wealth, and children. Number 9, that he or she shall have sympathy for all of God's creatures and devote his or her talents to their welfare. Number 10, that he or she shall establish brotherhood with me, that is, Ahmad, obeying me in all good things, and firmly adhere to these rules until the last breath of his or her life.
यही कादियाँ हुआ.
It is the 23rd of March, 1889. 40 devout followers
Assalamu alaikum, Glisa. We are ready for the next item.
Okay, Jazakallah. Jazakallah. So the next, item in the agenda is that Brother Adam Alexander will tell us about integration into Ahmadiyyat. So Brother Adam, please.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم وعلى عبده المسيح الموعود. Thank you everyone for attending today's annual Nomabayan Ijtima, and I will be discussing integration into the Ahmadiyya community. So we have just heard the bat that the Promised Messiah ﷺ had created, and in which we have pledged our best to live by those 10 commandments, those 10 conditions. The Promised Messiah ﷺ said that the purpose of their joining the movement and establishing with me a relationship like that of the disciple is that they should achieve a high degree of piety and righteousness. No wrongdoing, mischief should ever come near them. They should offer the 5 daily prayers regularly and with concentration in congregation, and should not lie nor hurt anyone by their tongues. They should not be guilty of any kind of vice, and should not let even a thought of mischief, wrongdoing, or transgression pass through their minds. They should shun every type of sin, offense, undesirable speech, and action, as well as egoistic passions and unruly behavior. They should become pure-hearted, harmless, meek servants of God Almighty, and no poisonous germ should flourish in their beings. That seems like quite a challenge. In fact, anyone who does not view those 10 conditions of bad as a challenge doesn't appreciate what we are being asked of us. Every single one of us, not only as a new Ahmadi, but every single one of us in this community is struggling to follow and live their lives by those 10 conditions of bad. It is not just us. We're just the new people who have done this bad. But many of the people in the Jamaat who are very old can tell you that every day of their life was a struggle for those 10 conditions. It is not a checklist that you feel that, in a day you have completed them all. But in fact, for every one of us, we stumble at some point. the solution was clear. In the Holy Quran, we are told that we should keep company with the righteous and that we should be mindful of those that we befriend. This is no exception in the community. That company that is being spoken of is referred to our spiritual leader, Hazrat Khalifatul Masih, Ayaduhul Talib Rasan Aziz. By creating that relationship with him, that righteous person, it helps us develop a higher moral spiritual state. And of him, you feel like all of your shortcomings wash from your body, and this charge from him of spirituality consumes you. And inshallah, I hope that all of you get that chance to experience that. Here in the community, we have brotherhood amongst each other. There may be that brotherhood on a smaller level at your local level or in your local area. And then you may know some brothers on the national level, as inshallah, we hope to return to a national Qudam event, a national youth event that we hold for 3 days, in which we are camping, horseback riding, climbing, and many other sports activities we do together. And over 1,000 of us are there meeting from all across the country for those 3 days. So relationships and brotherhoods are built during those times that can last a long time. You may also find that you're being invited to some of these events. These are ways that the community is trying to reach out to you to get to know you. You know, they're seeing someone who has joined the community and may not speak the language, may not come from the same culture. So they've decided themselves to step out of their comfort zone and invite you to their events. So don't be shy in accepting those events that are like the weddings or the walima, the akika, when they're celebrating the birth of a new child. When their child begins reading the Quran, it's called Bismillah. And when their child finishes, it's called an Ameen. And food celebrations are usually done in this way. And they'll invite you to those. And when they invite you, they'll explain it to you that what's happening, what's going on. I know when I was being invited to these early ceremonies, I had no idea even myself. In fact, after I was invited to my first Bismillah, I decided to have a Bismillah for myself. And when I also learned that there was an Ameen, and I did not learn them at the same time, when I heard, oh, there's even an Ameen when you finish, I had my Ameen for finishing the Quran. So you see that you will have these celebrations for yourself, and you will also want to invite those members that you have entered into a bond of brotherhood to come with to attend your event as well. I also want to tell you quickly that there are so many ways for you to be part of the community. I know that so many of you have so many different skills that could benefit the community. And I just want to introduce a few departments that the community has that could use your skills and that you might find yourself very interested in. The first one that we have is Khidmat-e-Khalq, social services. This department is very dedicated to helping the community, the poor, and assisting them. And members with various backgrounds can do a lot. If you have first aid background, or if you have some experiences with swimming, horse riding, bicycle, hunting, all these things could be beneficial in providing these social services or assistance to the community. And this is not just to our community. Now we're discussing how you could be active in the community with us helping the greater community. Another department is Sanadatul Tijarat. This is where a lot of you have some skills that I'm aware of, that you have some business background or some education about business background, or skills and training sets that could be useful for our youth. We humbly request that you reach out to our youth if you have these skills and assist them. And we often hold some seminars and events where we may request you, having those expertise, to speak to our youth, to give them that knowledge. So if you have software skills or computer skills, especially automotive skills. If you're able to fix cars, change oils, change tires, these skills all need to be taught to our youth, and we could really use your help as members of the community who have these skills to assist us with that. And Wakari Almo. This is all of the community's favorite thing to do. This is the thing that gets most recognition, is that we do things selflessly in our greater community. We clean parks, we clean schools, we clean neighborhoods, just so that we can all together live in a more beautiful, clean area. We get no reward from the people, but we see that it has such a great impact on the community. Some of our youth have narrated stories of being in the field cleaning up on New Year's Day, where a lot of us on New Year's Day go in the morning and we clean up all the garbage that was made during the night of New Year's Eve. And those awake ask us, what are you doing? And we say that, you know, we're just helping the community. Rather than shunning the acts that was done the night before, we're just doing the good deeds that we can do wherever we can do them. Lastly, the Department of Health and Fitness, Sedarat Jismani. Now, those are for you who have a lot of education in health and fitness, diets, and perhaps if you're a vegetarian or vegan, we could really use a lot of your understanding and expertise to help educate our youth on how to maintain these healthy diets. If any one of you happens to be shy and not somebody who really wants to step out into the community and be seen, we still can use you behind the scenes, writing articles, making agendas, creating diets that we can share, creating recipes that we can share, fitness activities that we could share, but we would really like to have you a part of that as well. But all of these activities can be done by any single one of you, regardless of if you're an introvert or an extrovert. Because whether you're sitting at home or we're sitting together, we want you to be part of this community in any way that you can, in any way that you feel that you can assist us. We are humbly asking you to do so. It was mentioned about speaking to Hazur and some of these mulaqats, these meetings that have been happening with Hazur. During this difficult time, such a question was asked that I would like to play.
During this pandemic, some of our mosques are closed, so for us Nomubayin, it is hard to keep up an Islamic atmosphere at home, especially when our parents are against the teachings of Islam. So how can we keep up such an atmosphere in which we can grow spiritually?
Do you have iPad, iPhone, internet connection, computer, TV? So you can attach yourself to the to MTA and then to Jamaat websites, right? And keep in touch with your Ahmadi friends who are very good with regards to their religious knowledge, and talk to them and then share your views and listen to them what they are saying. So this is how you can get benefit during these worst conditions. Huh?
There was some beautiful guidance by our beloved Imam. Now, let's quickly end this. I want to tell you that our beloved Imam has given us this guidance, but we need to do our part by building that strong relationship with him. The Hazrat Muslim Maud, the second Khalifa, has described this relationship that we need to build with our Imam in the following words. To an onlooker, it might seem great to rule over a community of millions, but you must reflect for God's sake whether after my gaining authority, your freedom has suffered in the least as compared to your past. Do I treat you like slaves or rule over you like a king or look down to you as if you are subordinates or prisoners? Generally speaking, is there any difference between you and those who have turned away from Caliphate? There seems to be no difference, yet you should remember that there is one big difference, and that is that you have someone who has truly sympathy for you, who truly loves you, and who considers your pain and suffering to be his own, and who is always praying for Allah for you. My dear brothers, The humble request that we have of you, as mentioned, is that you participate in the community wherever you can. We have local events such as Ijlas-e-Aam, general body meetings that have been mentioned. They are very informative and very educated. It is an opportunity to meet your local brothers and to ask questions. We have Ijtimas. We have competitions amongst the youth in reciting the Quran, speeches. All of these things we do as a friendly competition with one another, and it can get all the way to the national level where you're competing against the best of the country. And finally, the Jalsa Salana, which Allah Ta'ala please give back to us. It was such a great opportunity that the whole country came together for 3 days, that we saw each other and heard beautiful speeches. This Jalsa Salana serves a great purpose in the Jamaat, and may Allah Ta'ala restore it back to us. So this is going to conclude my speech. Again, it has been mentioned to write to Huzur Anwar, Ayatollah Talmas Aziz, offer prayers behind him by visiting him, watching the programs and addresses. Jazakumullah ta'ala sunaza. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah, Brother Adam. Very nice, very inspiring presentation. Now we have 3 brothers who will be presenting their journey to Ahmadiyyat. So I will first request from Brother James Hole from Ottawa Jamaat. So Brother James, please.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
So I wasn't sure exactly how deep to get into it, and I have this problem where I wind up talking a lot, so I wanted to kind of keep it nice and concise. My journey to Islam started long before I ever learned about Ahmadiyya. But I grew up Christian. I was born in Canada. Raised going to church every Sunday and doing those kinds of the things that we're just taking for granted. I think that a lot of Canadians do. I was baptized and circumcised, and I did my first communion and all those things, growing up, and attending church on weekends. As I got a little older, my faith was very strong. I got myself in trouble. I got involved with a lot of really bad people, but I always had this thing in me, this deep-rooted belief in my heart that because I believed in Jesus, that all my sins would be forgiven and I would go to heaven. And that was the basis for me. I was able to know that I could get up in the morning and smile and carry on with my life, that I would be okay. And in 2005, I was dealing with some really terrible situations. I made a lot of bad decisions, and I had a lot of really, really tough things in front of me. I didn't know how to get through it, and I was basically just broken. And I'd always believed, that God was present in my life and He controlled all things. And I tried to find solace in my faith through the tough times I was dealing with. And I had a lot of questions, about death and heaven and all kinds of stuff. And I'd spoken with chaplains and pastors and priests, and I asked a lot of questions, like, am I going to be conscious in heaven? Will I be aware of my life on earth and the people whom I loved and whom I was responsible for? Will I be aware of them and the love I had for them? And it brought on the other questions that if I'm Christian and believe in Jesus, and they're not, then they're going to burn in hell for all of eternity, and I'm going to go to heaven. And for me, that wasn't heaven. And then the other side of it, well, is if I wasn't conscious of it, and all of this was wiped away and forgotten like it never existed, somehow that didn't sit right with me either, that it couldn't be heaven either. And I couldn't find any answers. And I'm very analytical, and I read a lot. So I started reading a bunch of books that maybe I shouldn't have been reading, stuff about like the Gnostic Gospels and how Christianity came to be and the split between the churches and stuff like that. And after reading a bunch of these books, I was devastated, shattered. My faith that had always been strong seemed to be gone. I had nothing. It was like this deep hole, this void in me. And I have a few friends that are Muslim, and one of my friends who is not a very good Muslim, he barely prays, he does a lot of bad things, but he gave me a book called Christian-Muslim Dialogue. And I read through this book with a copy of a King James version of the Bible as I read the book, just to verify, because I intended to prove this propaganda book wrong. And I read through it, and a Christian scholar and an Islamic scholar were debating religion, and they pointed out mistake after mistake after mistake, and discrepancy after discrepancy after discrepancy within the Bible. And there was all these things that didn't add up, and when I went and asked questions about why they were there, I was given these vague, blanket answers about, oh, no, we don't ask about that, we just take it for granted, or we don't worry about those things. But when you're being told we don't worry about the things from what it's supposed to be, the Word of God, it troubled me. And so I was even further broken. And I had preconceived notions about Muslims. Growing up northern Ontario, I never knew a Muslim, just watched TV. In Ottawa, I never knew, I've been in Ottawa since I was 18, I didn't know a whole lot of Muslims. And I would think, like, these Muslims, they beat their wives, they're dirty, they're all these things, I had all these preconceived notions. And so I started reading, and I started learning about istinja and wudu and ghusl and all of these things that really challenged my belief about who was the dirty one. And so I was in a strange place. I was not financially stable. I had children, people depending on me. And so I spoke with someone who I respected a lot, someone who was really, really knowledgeable in Islam, a teacher. And I told him I believe everything that I've read, and I believe that this is the truth, and I want to become a Muslim. But for the next little while, I have to do some things in order to get my life on track, to make some money, to pay some bills, and I don't want to become a Muslim and then go do things that are wrong. I would rather get my life together and then do it while I'm standing on the right foot. And he told me to, he said, brother, point your finger in the sky and you say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. And he says, that makes you a Muslim. And he says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will open doors for you that you did not even know existed. And it touched me when he said that. And so I took my shahada and I started learning to read Arabic. I learned the Salah. I started teaching classes. I led the Salah in a lot of cases. And I really took to it, and it felt complete in it. And like anything, as you start to learn and you start to grow, I started realizing there's all these different viewpoints and all these divisions within Islam, and all these people who tell you one thing is right and one thing is wrong. And so I fell away from it. I stayed doing my best to be a Muslim, but not choosing a sect. I didn't want to say, oh, I am a Sunni, or I am a Shia, or I am a Salafi. I didn't want to do any of that. I tried my best to stay away from all of that. And as time went on, I'd been up and down, and I'd had good times and bad times, and times where I was very on point and on my deen and doing everything that was required of me, or to the best of my ability. And then there's times where I was, really half-stepped and been lazy and missed things. And a very close friend of mine was murdered in 2015. And he was Muslim. He was a convert. He was Muslim. And a mutual friend, a woman that I met through him, he was like her best friend. He was a very close friend of mine. So her and I were talking because I wasn't here for the funeral, and I'd asked her for the pictures from the funeral and stuff. And so we started talking about him, and we wound up getting along really well. We just kind of became friends, talking on the phone and stuff, and just regular conversations like a friend. And I wound up falling in love, very, very, very deeply in love with this woman, and the feelings were mutual. And so I did a little bit of investigating, and I tried to figure out what the best way is. Like, if I wanted to marry this woman, how would it work? I'm Muslim, she's Muslim, it shouldn't be a problem. And then so she told me one day, she said, well, we have to have a talk because I'm Muslim, but it's a little bit different. You're going to have to talk to my dad, and there's some things you need to know before we go further. And so this is my introduction to Ahmadiyya. And initially, when I was told about, you know, the promised Messiah and like having a Khalifa and all these things and the Mahdi and all this, I've read a lot of books, and I read through Sahih al-Bukhari, and I had always read about, there's a very, very long hadith that talks about the Dajjal, and when Isa returns to slay the Dajjal, and this big salah, and people will flock to him. And I was always taught that that was a very literal thing. And again, I took it for granted, never paying much thought to it. And so I had a really difficult time because it was a toss-up where I'd either get to marry this woman whom I love and who brings the best out of me and her family likes me, but I have to convert to a sect of Islam is what it seemed like. And I wasn't sure what I was going to do about it. And so I started speaking with some different people, some Ahmadis, and I went to mosques in Montreal and I learned a little bit. I went to a Juma in Montreal. I spoke with her father, spoke with her. I spoke with Farhan. I spoke with some different people, and I started learning and reading. And of all the books I've read, and all the khutbahs I've listened to, and every Friday sermon that I read, I have not found a single thing that makes me feel uncomfortable, not a single thing that troubles me, not a single thing that challenges really anything. Everything I've read and learned seems to enhance and make better the Islam that I have been blessed with from Allah. And so this journey that I thought was, I obviously it wasn't over, but this journey has taken a completely different turn for me, you know, and I just feel like what a blessing it is. You know, even in the many occurrences I've had where I'm pretty bold and I tell people that I'm an Ahmadi, and they look at me like I'm crazy because I'm white, and then they try and tell me that I'm not a Muslim, and I find this weird kind of hatred that they shed on me and show towards me, trying to tell me that I'm not a Muslim and trying to argue with me, do all these things, where I learned when a man or a woman takes their shahada and they say that ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, they become a Muslim in the eyes of the community. That is what declares you as a Muslim. And so for these millions or maybe close to 1 billion Muslims who hate this community so much, this community who I've seen absolutely nothing but love and acceptance and commitment and integrity and honesty and literally everything good that you can be. It's the only things I've seen in this community, and they're so hated. And now I've joined this community and I'm also hated just because of it. I never felt so sure of anything in my life that I'm on the right path. I'm not sure if I was supposed to go any deeper with it. I tried to write little notes and stuff, but I hope that's okay. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah, brother. It was very inspiring. Great. May Allah bless you and your family abundantly. Now we have the next brother from Cayman Island, Jeffrey Brown, please.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. My name is Jeffrey Brown from Cayman Island. I got introduced to Islam right after, I would say right before my graduation from high school. I met, he was like a cousin to me. I met him through my brother. As soon as this first day I met him, I'm the type of person I could feel someone's energy. So I knew like he was kind of different. He just came from living in Dubai, in Saudi. So he told me he was a Muslim. He didn't want to tell me at first, but then he told me because I was really interested in him. So then when he told me about Islam, I found it kind of different because when I grew up, I was I would say evangelic, a Christian. I used to always go to church, but I never really find peace in church, you know. It's a Spanish church. It was always a lot of loud music. It was dancing, we couldn't find no peace. Me and my brother always used to go upstairs or go outside, you know, just to find. But I always believed in God. It was so strong in me that even when I was a child and growing up Christian, I never used to turn to Jesus. I felt like some way, like why would I pray to Jesus? I always refer to God, always God, 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 God. And in 2013, when I met my cousin, I was blessed to know that he was a Muslim and he would teach me Quran. At that same time, me and my best friend was learning about it, and he had got Quran. He had bought it first, then I bought it second, and I was always waiting to read Quran. And when I read it, I was getting so interested. I tell him, "Where's the mosque in Cayman?" He told me that he don't really go to that mosque because they believe in something else. So I was worried. I know that I was saying, what's the difference? So I always had that in me. So that same day, I was reading Quran in his house. This was around 11 o'clock at night. He told me the area around the mosque was. So then I went on my bicycle from his house looking for this mosque at 11 p.m. at night. So then I'm on the plaza and I'm just coming across. And at the same time, there's a group of guys in a car. And I see they got beards. I'm like, yo, they got to be Muslims. I got to ask them. So I stopped them and they tell me, I asked them, hi, I was wondering where the mosque is. And they tell me, it's right there in front of you. I was surprised because at that time when no one's supposed to be there and I came looking for the mosque, they came to close the mosque. But instead of closing the mosque, they found me and they opened the mosque. And they gave me a copy of the Quran and they gave me a praying mat. And I think also a topi. And I really got interested. They tell me come. This all the time to come. They come 5 times a day. So I saw the board with all the salat times. Then I start coming. I was a usual member to it. Then my friend never came to me with a mosque though. But I always had that inspiration to find out more about Islam. So I started growing my stuff. I would say around 2 months, a group from Trinidad and Tobago and one mufti from Barbados came as a Jamaat to my islands to start speaking about Islam. Then that was my opportunity there. I was so happy that someone came to my island to share Islam. And at that time, they tell me that they was looking for someone to study Islam, my community, because they had no imam. Everybody came there as business people. So there was no spiritual leader. Just had people that had knowledge that was sharing and doing khutbahs and stuff like that. But they had no scholar or no real knowledgeable people. So they asked me to talk to the mufti that was from Barbados. He had a school called Darul Iman. So then I was invited to go there. I was really happy. My family found it weird at first because they thought what Islam was ISIS and this and that. And my mom, she's a big part of the church community here. Then after, she married a pastor from the church. But surprisingly enough, I convinced them I wasn't ISIS and they let me go. So I went to Trinidad for 1 week. In that time, I started learning how to ghusl, wudu. I was in Jamaat, you know, basically like itikaf in Jamaat and learning about Islamic, basic Islamic principles. So then after I went to Barbados a week after, and I started learning to read the Arabic, and I learning 10 surahs of the Quran. And alhamdulillah, I really learned a lot from him. Then I came back. Then they gave me an opportunity to go to study, to become a scholar in Trinidad and Tobago. So I took the opportunity to go, and it was like one of the best things that happened to me because when I went there, I was so focused. It was a boarding school. We didn't have no phones, nothing like that. So you had to be concentrated every day, studying hard. And I realized, like in 3 months, I learned so much. I was doing an intensive Arabic course too. And after 3 months, I got a dream where I was in a small bedroom and I saw like a small female type of person on the bed. And I looked at her and I felt so weird. I felt that my heart was speeding so fast. And out of nowhere, like my mind said, I'm afraid of her, but I'm gonna approach her. And she opened the window and she jumped out. So it was like a high building and jumped out. And as soon as she jumped out, I saw like a plain land where this everything was flat. It was like the end of the world. It was flat. And the girl, she was like doing salat, but the wrong way. My mind told me it wasn't the direction that she needed to go to. So I went there and I located her. I basically guided her to the direction, and I woke up and I said, this really have to mean something, you know. Then 1 month later, and it was a Sunni school. 1 month later, immigration denied my student visa, so I returned to the island. This was in 2014 now, and actually one day till I get a message on Facebook from my friend Paul saying that, bro, there's some Muslim guys talked to me just now. I actually told them about you, this and that, and they wanted to know you. So I thought I would have seen Muslim people from my community. And I found out that they came from Canada. So when I talked to them, when I came to talk to them, everything was nice, good vibes. Then eventually started telling me that they're Ahmadis. Ahmadi, I never heard about Ahmadi before. So then I really got curious. It was Ahmad Sahi, Navid Mangla, and Jerry Razi Kujat. And they were really nice. Then they wanted to hang out with me and my friends, so I invited my cousin. And my cousin really got interested in Islam at that point too. I would say I got really weird about it when they started telling me about Ahmadiyya, because I was a Sunni right before. And it felt weird because everything was so literal in Sunni, and Ahmadiyya is metaphorical. So it crossed my mind all the time. I used to always study videos on YouTube about Islam. So everything about Jesus going to be resurrected, all the beliefs that was similar to the Christianity beliefs as well, I believe. So when Ahmadiyya came with this new perspective, it challenged me, but I was always open-minded to find out about different religions. So I sat to them, I never judged them at all, but I fell away, but I wanted to know them. And by the end of the day, I felt so cool with them. You know, I felt like they were my brothers already.
Brother, can you wrap up in a minute or so, because we are
no problem. So then they invited me to go Belize. Then I went Belize for Ramadan. I learned a lot. Then I got invited to Justice Salana in UK. And that's where I was like 90% sure that Ahmadiyya was correct. But then when I saw the bath and I saw how the brotherhood connect to me, I felt so different. I felt complete. I felt like, yeah, nobody can convince me that this is not right no more. And I saw the truth and I accepted it.
What happened? The voice is gone.
I'm so happy now that we have a community in Grand Cayman Islands. And
okay, Jazakallah. Now we have brother from Toronto Jamaat, Wu Nguyen Tran. I would say brother Tran. Is that right?
No, Vu is right. Vu is my first name.
Okay, Vu.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Yeah, my stories aren't as great probably as Jamie's or my brother over there from the Cayman Islands. But my journey to Ahmadiyya really started about 5 or 6 years ago. I guess in terms of me, some context there, professionally, I think I was kind of stagnant in my life. I was looking for change, looking for purpose, you know. I was about like 25, 24 at the time, really didn't know what I was doing. On a personal level, my life wasn't really enamored with where I was at anyways. So really just looking for the guidance. Like most of the other brothers, I was born a Catholic, raised a Catholic. I did go to church every Sunday, more so out of habit, based on my mom's beliefs, not so much on my own. So religion wasn't particularly strong in my life at that point. But yeah, so on this journey for change, obviously you start researching, you start looking into things, right? Islam has always piqued my interest, just overall from what I've read in school, but it hadn't been something that I really took a serious thought of because religion was never a focal point of my life. But around that time, I had a coworker and they shared some news with me about how a group of Muslims were persecuted against in a Muslim nation. And in my head, it really piqued my curiosity in a sense. You typically hear stories of conflict between religions, whether it's Christianity against Islam, Islam against Hinduism. That's what you typically hear. You don't really hear stories interreligiously where it's like, well, for me, I always wondered, why would there be conflict between Muslims? Don't they all believe in the same thing? Like, what's going on here, right? So just based on that curiosity alone, I really started looking deeper into it and really understanding what was what. So I came to find out that the group being persecuted were Ahmadis, and I've never heard of Ahmadiyya before in my life. I was like, whoa, what is this thing? What's going on? So I did some research, and around that time, there was an initiative that was out. It was called Fast with a Muslim Friend. I saw it on TV. I was like, oh, that sounds like a good idea. Maybe I should sign up. I really want to learn more about Islam. I signed up, and I really didn't know who ran that event. Turns out it was an Ahmadi group that had run that event. So when I registered, I was like, hey, when you find a family for me to fast with, can you make sure it's an Ahmadi family? I have some questions I really want to talk to them about and really find more about the religion. I hear back from somebody from the Jamaat. His name was Jari, and basically that's how the journey started. So they instead of placing me with a family, they decided that given my age, to match me up with a group of young brothers that were around my age as well. So we met up, we broke fast together that day. And ever since then, I think we've built a really great relationship as far as just getting to understand what the religion was about. I found that on my search to really find something, you get certain people that really try to push narratives and push ideologies onto you. But with this particular group, the approach was very unaggressive, in the sense like they really just genuinely cared about what I was doing, where I was going, and then adding religion as a piece on top of that, not so much it being the primary focus of our conversations. And I found that to be extremely endearing. And I guess you could say that's the reason why I stayed with Ahmadiyya as opposed to something else. It was really that sense of brotherhood that was created from the start, and continuing that path to really learning and helping me understand how to be the best human being that I could possibly be. So after maintaining a relationship with these guys for quite a number of years, and doing a ton of research throughout that time, I really understood that, look, this seems to check all the right boxes as far as what it stands for, what the purpose is, what the goals are for me. So that's when I decided to sign my bite and really go forward with living this religion full on. And yeah, the journey's been great. I was fortunate enough with some of the brothers here to go to the UK and meet Huzur. I think that was 2 years ago now. But yeah, it was a wonderful experience, and that's my journey.
Thank you very much, Abu. That also brings us right on the time clock. So now it's up to James and Yusuf, how they lead us, the clock as well. So I request now James Sinclair to please talk about I shall cause thy message to reach corners of the earth. So James, please.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. Can you hear me?
Wabarakatuh.
I just wanted to take a few minutes to speak to you, to let you know that I've been an MD now for 7 years, and I've been able to do a lot of Waqf-e Arzi work in different countries, and I've been able to reach hundreds of thousands of people in person, but I've also been able to reach millions of people through social media and through other means, and that's enabled me to bring people into the fold of Islam. And it's our responsibility. We've found this diamond, we found this thing that we believe in, and we've made it our lives, and now it's our responsibility to share it with other people. So anybody who is an MD and new converts, old converts, people that don't speak a lick of English, everybody should be trying to spread this message as far as they can. If I wasn't here for the Ijtima right now, I would be at my local flea market. And what I do there is I just speak to people as they walk by. It doesn't matter what their nationality is, background, anything. I start discussions with them, and I try to teach them about the peaceful teachings of Islam. I try to teach them about who the Messiah is, Masih Maud, alayhi salatu wasalam. And it's an opportunity for me to not only educate people about Islam, but educate people about the true Islam, about the real teachings of Islam that has been introduced to us by the Messiah. And for me, I'm grateful that I have this opportunity. I'm grateful that I have the chance. My dear brother Yusuf Seeger, who you're going to hear from shortly, he once said to me that all of our journeys in Islam are not sprints, but they're marathons. The life of a new convert is great. It's a whole new world, just like the song from Aladdin. I'm not going to go through my conversion story because that's just going to take a bit too long. But I want you all to also know that the relationship with the Khalifa is the most important thing that you can have. And I'll give you guys a short story about how the present Khalifa Huzur, may Allah be his helper, he really helped me with something personal that I was going through. My 2-year-old son was in the hospital, and the doctors could not figure out what was wrong. They couldn't figure out any way to relieve him of the pain that he was in. And I wrote a letter to Huzur, and within 24 hours, I got a reply back from Huzur and a recommendation for some medication. And only through the Khalifa, only through Huzur, he knew what medication to recommend, something that even the doctors at the hospital couldn't do. And my son was discharged from the hospital within 12 hours, and now he's back at home and he's completely healed. And this is not something that I would share with you guys if I didn't feel it was actually something miraculous. It was something that was amazing to me. The doctors at Sick Kids Hospital could not figure out how to relieve my son of the pain that he was in. And Huzur, may Allah be his helper, our Khalifa, was able to bring my son home within 12 hours. So that's just an example of how we can build a relationship with the Khalifa and also maintain that relationship. It's very important. Again, I don't want to take too much time because I know we're on a short time schedule here, so I'll leave it there. Thank you so much. And we have a new converts group on WhatsApp, and we're going to be switching it to Telegram. If anybody would like to join, please message me or get back to me after this Ijtima, and we will therein add you to the group.
Jazakallah, Brother James. Now we have Yusuf Seeger, as James mentioned earlier, connecting with Khilafat, his topic. Please, Yusuf, please.
A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Respected guests, members, I know the time's limited, and so if I start to go over time, please let me know, and we will wrap it up. And I honestly, I don't have much there's not much I can say after these excellent speeches, like on how to develop a relationship with the Khilafat, and like, you know, the presentations, they've been amazing. I don't have a whole lot that I could say that hasn't already been said. It's great to see you guys. You know, some of you guys, I know some of you I don't. I'd really like to meet you. You know, because of this pandemic, I feel like we've missed the opportunity to get to know each other. But I'm really hoping that this is over soon and we get to meet in person and not. It's really nice for Jamaat events, though. I'll tell you what, to hit the pause on the camera. Okay, so building a relationship with Khilafat. I guess giving this speech is kind of an assumption that I've built a relationship with Khilafat. And honestly, like I have made an effort over the years, but I could totally do like way better than I've done. And I'll just share with you like my own personal experience. So the reason why I wanted to develop a relationship with Khilafat is my journey to Jamaat was through the books of the Promised Messiah. I just, you know, like the story's been told 1,000 times. I stumbled upon the philosophy and teachings of Islam like so many other people before me and currently. And it just really kind of changed my point of view on like how I looked at religion, God, like the purpose of life. And it not only did it really make me investigate Islam more, it made me investigate religion and spirituality in general, all over. And so, the Promised Messiah, he put forth a couple of interesting things I didn't feel like other people were putting forward. And one of them was a challenge. He challenged people. He said, look, if you are in doubt about my claim, he said, come stay with me. Come stay with me for about a month, right? And he goes, I'll show you Jesus. Saying that like he was going to get, just being in his proximity, the people were going to have these spiritual experiences just being next to him. And this is not new to Islam. This was actually a characteristic of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They said that his presence expanded like a month's journey, right? And that people said that whenever they were next to him, that they felt like he brought heaven close, and hell, they could also see hell. Heaven and hell were almost as if they were facing it and seeing it. And whenever they'd separate their company from him, that they would find that their piety would drop off, right? And that they weren't as such darlings as they were whenever they had his proximity. So being close to him was a real thing. And I mean, and we could see it with the transformation. I mean, these people were in the middle of the desert, separated from whatever was their civilization at the time. And guys, thousands of saints, and wisdom poured forth from their mouths just from being in his company, right? So you see this challenge coming again. And of course, me reading these books, I'm like, I want to come stay at your house for a month and see Jesus. You know, that sounds like an excellent challenge. And it's very scientific too. I mean, if I don't see Jesus, well then what skin is there off my teeth, right? Like it costs me nothing, you know? So much to my luck and my good fortune, you know, even though it had been 100 years since he passed when I came across his material, there was the institution of Caliphate, which is a successorship of his prophethood, right? Carrying on his missions. You know, human beings, we don't live a long time. You know, he lived 73 years. That's actually the average of a human lifespan. It's 72.6 years. So this gave me the opportunity to be able to run the experiment. And I did. So the first chance I got to go to UK Jalsa, I definitely, the number one thing out of everything is I wanted to meet the Khalifa. I thought it was amazing that they were going to give me the opportunity to meet him. And I wanted to see if I was going to be able to have that same experience, if there was going to be a transformation in myself. And so, you know, when I went there, they thought that I was actually going to mix my molokat. And like, that was what was in my heart when I went. And I made a big deal. I was like, oh, guys, I'm going to miss my molokat. Like, do something for me. You know, and because that was my intention in my heart, I ended up getting 2 molokats. My flight ended up not missing the original one, and I ended up getting 2. And I got a really special experience with them. And so, you know, this was kind of like, it goes to show that if you want a special relationship with Huzur, you should pray for it, and it should be in your heart, and you should take actions towards it. And another great way that you can develop a relationship with Huzur is doing good deeds. And I'll give you the metaphor of this. You know, a guy once he gave me a metaphor. He said believers are like bees. And he's like, look, bees make honey. He goes, our honey is good deeds, right? And he goes, when the bees make their honey, they bring it back to the queen bee. He goes, the master of our hive is Huzur. And he goes, we take those good deeds and we bring them back to Huzur. If you look at his life, Huzur was in Africa for a quarter of a century before he was ever the Khalifa. He lived in a circumstance without running water, without electricity. They had to like pump like water and bring it back to the house. They were 90 miles at one point from the closest civilized town in Africa, right? And remember, civilization in Africa, there's civilization. There are developed societies in Africa, but I mean, and this is years ago. This is 3 decades ago. You know, there's stories of him killing snakes and scorpions. And so whenever he got there, right, not only has he's done good by sacrificing his life to serve people, and he would go stay in their homes and make personal connections. Guys, he brought wheat to a country that had never had wheat before. So not only was he doing good deeds on a small and personal level, he was doing it in his house. He was running chores with his wife and helping take care of the children and building relationships with people there and serving as a headmaster. He was also bringing grain to their country, right? So he's doing good on a small level, a personal level, on a big level. And so if you want to have a connection with somebody that likes to do good, you too have to do good as well. Right? And I'm telling you, this platform of Ahmadiyya, you can do amazing things under it. My recommendation to you is if you have a good deed and an intention, first of all, write to Huzur and tell him that you're intending on doing this good thing. Like, I have this good idea and I'm going to do it. Then follow through on it and continuously update him. Whenever you go see him, whenever you write letters, tell him what's going on, like what successes you have, what struggles, what your goals are next. Like, he will respond because he's a do-gooder, and that's how you're going to get his attention. And look, a lot of people are bringing their problems to Huzur, but remember, Huzur didn't complain a lot. right? Like if you read the reports of him, man, he took those accommodations and he never complained. That's one of the things you'll hear about people if you hear them talk about him in his time there. He did it with pride and with enthusiasm. So that's another great way is do good and share with Hazur and aspire for the sky, man. Don't look, do small things. If you do the smallest thing, God will bless your effort. But like when you put that recipe together just right, man, the mercy of God when it flows, it's an amazing thing. And like James Sinclair said, like you can reach millions of people and make a positive difference in their life in any type of way, whether it's providing grain or just, you know, doing good at home. And the second thing I'd say for developing a great relationship with Hazur is keep company with good people. Some of the people that have the closest relationship with Hazur is of course Jamaat leadership and Waqf Zindagis, right? If you want to be like somebody, you should keep company with other people with whom you want to be like, right? So if you want to be rich, you need to keep company with rich people. And if you want to have a great relationship with Hazur, you got to have a great relationship with people that have a great relationship with Hazur. You'll pick up things and you'll go to find out that like Hazur really cares about these guys. I mean, James Sinclair mentioned, like he said, you know, Hazur was writing personal letters, you know, about like when his kid was sick. That's common. I've heard stories of guys where Hazur will send them chocolates and stuff whenever they're in town and check on their accommodations, their food. When these Waqf Zindagis have an issue, they have a personal relationship with this man, right? And so if you want to understand how to have that relationship too, and you want it to rub off, you got to keep company with these people. It's called the power of 10, you know? So, you know, go keep company with these people. And so look, guys, and the common ones, of course, write letters, watch Hazur's Friday sermons. This Week with Hazur on YouTube is excellent. I mean, it is some of the coolest stuff. And even because of the pandemic, we've had like some access to some things like him addressing people we normally wouldn't have access to. Go watch him, man. It's really cool when you're watching him address the missionaries for like Indonesia and Bangladesh and like some of these countries like Mauritius and stuff, man. Like, these people are like, it's something to be seen, and normally we don't get access to these meetings. So take opportunity of it and watch it. It's quite an amazing thing. And let's see. Yeah, I think that's the majority of it. And attend his speeches too. If you get a chance to go choose his dresses, and look, especially as Normal Buying, you guys are going to get a lot of opportunities to get to be next to Hazur, and people would kill for those opportunities. I'm telling you, they would die for it. Take advantage of them. Don't turn them down. I know that like this worldly life is difficult and it requires a lot of us, and this world wants to suck every single ounce out of us. But if you can, and sometimes you have no choice. I've been there too, like where I want to go and I just can't. But if you do have the opportunity and it's a choice, take the choice. You won't regret it. I mean, there's brothers on here right now that can tell you, I've told them, you know, that's like, go make that effort to have a relationship with Hazur. Your life is going to get better, and you're going to come back here and you're going to tell me later how your life is better in every way. And it has been. And so, you know, put me to the test. You can also test me. Go build that relationship and tell me how your life is in a worldly sense, in a spiritual sense, and in a religious sense afterwards. Tell me if it's not getting better over time. Okay, guys. Jazakallah.
Jazakallah, Brother Yusuf Saab. Very inspiring. Really enjoyed your talk. Now we have Mohtaram Amir Saab with us, and he will be doing the concluding address, and also towards the end, he will be leading us in silent prayer. So I request Mohtaram Amir Saab to please join us now. Start.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله. I begin in the name of Allah, the Gracious, the Merciful. I bear witness that there is none worthy of worship except Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is the servant of and messenger of Allah. It's a very happy occasion for me to be among the new members of the Jamaat who have assembled to refresh their knowledge once again and to enable themselves to benefit from the programs which enable themselves to become more active members of the community. What I would be presenting to you would be after some excellent presentations, and maybe I would be repeating some points, but sometimes important points are repeated just to emphasize their importance. First of all, I take up the question of the question which is most important in our lives. For a person who believes in God, that he has created this universe, the most important question becomes, what is the purpose of our creation? If Allah has created this universe, if he has created us, he must have created us for a purpose. What is that purpose? All religions have answered this, tried to answer this question, but very clearly Islam tells us that men and jinn have been created for his worship. What is worship? Worship, there are various meanings of worship, and all are true. But I present to you two most important aspects of worship. One is to adopt the colors of the being we are worshiping, that is Allah. Adopting the colors of Allah means that whatever attributes he has, we try to have those attributes. For example, he is merciful. We would be doing worship of Allah if we also become merciful. Now imagine for a while, if everybody around would become merciful, how would this world change? This world would become heaven on earth. And this is the purpose of worship of Allah, worship of God, that through his worship, we change our lives in this world, also lives in heaven. And the other aspect of worship is that we obey all his commandments, because all his commandments are for guiding us to what is best for us, what helps us in fulfilling the objective of our creation. The promised Messiah, peace be upon him, has guided us on all aspects of our faith. And at one point, in a lecture known as a lecture Sialkot, he guides us about the purpose of religion. He says that the purpose of religion is that man should purify oneself of all evil, so that one's soul is always in prostration at the threshold of Allah. A person should be imbued with firm belief, love, discernment, and understanding, sincerity, and loyalty. A special reformation should take place in him so that he attains paradise in this very world. I have emphasized the word paradise in this very world. The Holy Quran tells us that paradise is not something we would be having after our life. We are told in the Holy Quran that for those who are hoping to be in the presence of their Lord one day, there are two heavens, one heaven in this life and the other heaven in the hereafter. So religion enables us to make our lives heavenly in this very world. Now I take you to the opening of the Holy Quran. The opening chapter of the Holy Quran is Surah Fatiha, which we repeat in our prayers. And it is a summary. It's a Quran in miniature, only 7 verses. But then the Quran detail starts with this statement that if you want to become righteous, if you want to achieve the purpose of your creation, then there are 3 aspects. This is that you believe in the unseen, you observe prayer, and then you spend out of what we have provided you. These are the 3 requirements of righteousness, piety, which are mentioned right at the beginning of the Holy Quran. Now, believe in the unseen. What is unseen? Unseen is articles of our faith. Allah, with all his attributes, that he has created this world and he has created it for a purpose. And then the first practical ordinance in this verse is that we establish daily prayers. This is the foremost act of worship. Everything we do in obedience to Allah is an act of worship, but out of the formal acts of worship, this is the most important. And the third thing which we are told here is that we spend out of what he has provided us. It is not only wealth, it is all the faculties which God has given us, has gifted us with. For example, our health, our intelligence, our ability to quick learnly and teach others. So whatever faculty Allah has given us, we spend that faculty in the service of humanity. That is spending out of what we have provided. And this spending out of what we have provided is proof of our sincerity. In the Holy Quran, spending in the way of Allah is also called sadaqah. Sadaqah literally means affirmation, proof of our sincerity with God. If we truly love God, we do sadaqah. We spend out of what He has provided us. So these are the three most important aspects of righteousness, which are mentioned in the beginning of the Holy Quran, and all the detailed instructions of religion revolves around these basic points. Now, one very important aspect for new members is that God has gifted you with belief. You have discovered this pearl, which is expensive for you, which is the most precious thing you now have. Now, if it is so precious for you, it is precious for everyone else. So the Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, may peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, he has given us this, this guidance that a true believer is jealous for providing everyone else what he has got, or what she has got. So Huzur says, none of you will have faith until he loves for his brother what he loves for himself. So whatever we have, that is the most precious thing we have, is wealth of our faith. So we should share this wealth of our faith with our relatives and our friends. So these are the points I wanted to share with you. But before I end, I want to point out a very interesting thing with you, and that is that every living being needs continuous nourishment. No living being is such that you nourish it only once and then it would live forever. Our living needs continuous nourishment. I relate you an interesting incident in Baitul Islam Mosque a few years ago. We were having mosque open houses for students of schools. A group came and I was introducing Islam to them. When I mentioned that Muslims pray 5 times a day, a student stood up and he said, "Is that not too many prayers in a day?" For a while, I was at a loss how to tackle this question, but then Allah guided me, and I asked him, "How many times do you eat during the day? Eat and drink during the day?" He said, "So many times, 4 to 5 times at least." I said, "Why don't you eat or drink only once a day? Why 4 or 5 times?" He said, "I feel hungry, so I have to eat." So I said, this is the reason. God, who has created us, He knows how many feedings, daily feedings we need, how many doses we need. These are the 5 doses of daily nourishment that God has designed for us. He is our creator. We do not know what we need, but He knows. And this is the advice He has given us, that if you want to be spiritually fit, you need continuous spiritual nourishment. This is our daily prayers. And then a very important aspect, which I know has been given to you during this refresher course. I was listening to a very motivating presentation on this subject earlier. But I repeat it because this is one of the most important aspects of our spiritual lives, that we remain connected with Sayyidina Hazrat Khalifatul Masih through Friday sermons. Friday sermons are our weekly nourishment given to us by Allah. In the chapter which is named Friday, Juma, we are mentioned that Friday prayer is so important that when you hear the call for Friday prayer, leave every business, whatever you are doing, leave it and rush for joining your brothers and sisters for remembrance of Allah. So this is the most important weekly part of our schedule, which you should jealously guard. And then we have a continuous stream of spiritual nourishment in the form of MTA. Sayyidina Hazrat Khalifatul Masih has advised us Ahmadis that every Ahmadi home should have some social time on MTA for the program which they like. And this would act as our periodic spiritual nourishment. This is the excellent, most important source of information for our religious education and for our spirituality. Now I open this forum for you to ask me any questions. We have some time. I think we have about 5 to 10 minutes. I would like to listen to your questions so that I understand whether the points I wanted to share with you have been clearly understood.
Amir Sahab, we don't have that option that they can ask live questions except this screen, which is like showing the presenters only. The Zoom participants cannot ask live questions.
Okay.
They can send us. I think they can send us the questions on the chat.
Okay, if that facility is available, we would tend to the. Otherwise, we would utilize this time in finding out. Is it the only annual event that we hold, or there are more than one annual events for refreshing the knowledge and experience of our new members?
Is a question to me, sir?
Yes.
Yes, Amir Sahab, this is actually the annual Ijtima, but we are thinking to do one in November as well. Some other refresher courses. Last year we did on regional basis, but this year we did this on Zoom, and our participation is more than last year.
MashaAllah, this is very good.
On regional basis, we are planning to do some activities this year.
Right.
National level. Yeah.
Since we have limited physical events because of the pandemic, we should utilize whatever facilities Allah has provided us to fulfill that gap, to compensate for what we are missing. So this is good. And I see some, this forum is for no mobile, but I see some senior no mobile. Perhaps this company is so good that they don't want to leave the company of no mobile. But we would like that more and more members of no mobile group becomes regular members of the Jamaat. So we want you to train you to be good enough for joining the mainstream Jamaat as early as possible. Okay. So if you agree,
there is a comment, Amir Sahab, from Cayman Island.
Yes.
The Ijtima should be arranged in Cayman. We have 3 attendees from Cayman Island.
Oh, mashallah, mashallah. They should send us official invitation. Then we can arrange a virtual Ijtima in Cayman Island, while everyone around the world would be able to join us online.
MashaAllah. Inshallah.
Okay.
I don't have any other comment, Amir Sahab.
ठीक है, Jazakumullah. So in that case, we would wind up with a silent prayer. Do you agree?
Ji, Amir Sahab.
So I invite you to please join me in the silent prayer. And at this time, we should review the purpose of this Ijtima, that was to refresh our knowledge and to enable us to move quickly as active members of the Jamaat. You may have noticed that some of the things which you are required to be having, you have to still gain. So make it a part of your schedule to gain that knowledge, to practice those things which you are missing at the moment, and be as resourceful in your personal life regarding the beliefs and practices of Islam as it is possible. And let us pray that Allah enables us to remember the various lessons which we have received in this ijtima, and the good impact that these presentations have created in our hearts lives with us for a long time. Ameen. Please join me in the silent prayer. Dua. Ameen. Allahumma ameen. Jazakumullah ta'ala ahsan al-jaza.
Jazakumullah ta'ala, Mohtaram Amir Sahib, and all the participants. Thank you very much. God bless you all.
Thank you. Jazakumullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Assalamu alaikum.